Hello, and welcome to my video series on Introduction to Human Resource Management. In today's video, we are going to discuss about human resource planning, which forms the first function of human resource management. As we discussed in my last video on Introduction to Human Resource Management, that planning is the first step for success of any implementation of any policy or procedure or function in an organization. Similarly, human resource planning forms an integral part for any human resource department or for any human resource manager who is working as a HR generalist or as an HR specialist for an organization. And in order to achieve the strategic goals of the organization and to align HR with the strategic goals of the organization, it is important to plan for future for the human resources which will be required in order to get the work or the job done effectively and efficiently, so that it will help us in reducing the cost and utilization of resources at the fullest. This will improve the productivity in the organization and also improve the profit margins of the organization. So let us delve into this very interesting topic on HR planning, which forms an important part of the syllabus of various MBA, PGDM, and BBA colleges and universities across India and abroad. So this is really going to help the students to understand the concept of human resource planning. We move ahead now. So first of all, let us define what is human resource planning. Human resource planning offers an accurate estimate of the number of employees required with matching skills to meet the organizational long-term and short-term objectives. So human resource planning is a forward-looking function because this is planning and we are planning for future. So it has to be forward-looking function. And basically what HR department does in planning is to estimate in advance how many employees will be required for the upcoming projects in the organization. And it is, of course, subject to revision also, but a basic estimate is done at the beginning of the financial year of any organization, that how many employees will be needed in future. The estimate can be done by taking into consideration the past records, and there are various ways of determining the demand and supply side of the human resources in an organization, which we are going to discuss further in this video. So also human resource planning is a process of matching internal and external supply of people. So internally, how many resources are available with us who can be utilized for various functions and to carry out the work in the organization, and how many resources we need to acquire or procure from outside through various sources like giving advertisement in newspapers or posting on social media or posting on job portals like Naukri.com. So we need to understand the process of matching internal supply of labor and external supply of labor for job openings which are anticipated in the organization over a specified period of time. So this specified period of time can be 1 year or 6 months or quarter also for any organization, depending on their needs and requirements. Next comes the objectives of human resource planning. And we need to understand that why we need to do human resource planning and why it forms an integral part of any HR department or any organization per se. So basically, the major purpose or objective of HR planning is to decide what positions the organization will have to fill and how to fill those positions. So we need to understand and do an exercise to find out the vacant positions in the organizations and how critical these vacant positions are and how we can fill them. how we can fill them? We can answer by saying that either we'll fill them internally by transfers or promotions, or we can fill them externally by recruitment process of for campus placements for a lower level job, or we can go for LinkedIn, or we can go for job portals like Naukri.com for middle level and higher level job positions. Also, another objective of human resource planning is to forecast manpower requirements. So what does the HR planning does? It actually helps us to understand what is going to be the need of manpower in future. And also it helps us to change or cope up with the changes, because we all are living in a volatile market. We all are living in a VUCA world where things keeps changing, and the business dynamics also keeps changing depending on the economy, depending on the recession, depending on the new technological advancements. So there are so many changes that are happening in an organization. And in order to cope with these changes, there is always a change in requirement of manpower. There can be, more manpower can be required in new technological areas, or we need to downsize with the manpower which is, being replaced by technology and machines. So we need to make changes. So it is not just to fill the vacant positions, but human resource planning is also done to do the shunting for human resources or employees if they are not needed in the organization. So that we have to keep that in mind too. So also another objective, as you can see in the slide, is that we use human resource planning to use the manpower more productively. So we need to see and understand that we are not wasting the manpower resources of our organization, and where 10 people are required, we are not hiring 15 people in that place, or where 15 people are required, we are not hiring 10 people in that place. So we need to effectively and efficiently use the existing manpower and recruit as per the requirements and as per the need of the organization. Also, another objective of HR planning, and it is one of the very, very important objective, that HR planning helps in order to promote the employees. So it helps in internal movement also. So once we see that there are certain, positions which are going vacant, we can actually train our existing personnel. We can train with the new technological advancements to our existing employees and fill those vacant positions at higher level through these existing employees, and by giving them promotions or by giving them transfers. So that is also one of the basic objective of human resource planning. Moving ahead, what is the importance of human resource planning, how it is helpful to the organizations, and whether we should go ahead with human resource planning or not? Is it that worthwhile? So to answer this question, we need to understand that organizations use human resource planning to meet the future challenges. So whatever in future, suppose the strategic goals of the organization is to expand and to open up new branches for the company. So in that case, in order to meet this challenge, you need to hire more people. So for that, human resource planning is important, and planning ahead actually helps you meet the organizational objectives. Because if we do not plan ahead, then what will happen is that once the new branches are opened, there will be no personnel available to take care of those branches. So as the strategic goals are made or are in line by the higher echelons of the organization and disseminated to the human resource department, immediately the human resource department will start working and start planning for future of the strategic goals of the organization. It also helps us in reducing cost in case the organization takes a decision of downsizing and shutting down some stores which are not profitable. In that case, also the human resource planning helps us to take decisions. So this will overall help the organization grow and improve the productivity, reduce the cost, and meet the organization objectives. So also human resource planning helps us to create a talent pool. So talented people we can create an inventory of talented people who can be, fit in the vacant positions in the organization. And we can also prepare our existing workforce for the future requirements in technology. Maybe, for example, you are dealing with IT company and your existing employees are trained in a certain programming language and a new language comes in. So you need to train your employees in the new language so that they can take up the projects which are more challenging and which are in demand by the organizations. So this will, help the organizations beat the competition and help in reducing cost and meet up with the organizational changes, and also plan for succession. What I already discussed in my first video on the introduction to human resource management, what succession planning is. So succession planning basically is to replace higher level management employees with middle level management employees who fit in those roles and who are trained and who have been developed for those roles. So for that, planning is also to be taken into consideration. So this is a chart I really wanted to explain. This is a overall explanation of human resources planning process in an organization. We all know that human resource planning, now you understand, is important because the organizations are built in an environment. It has an internal environment as well as it has an external environment. So when we talk about external environment, it is the changing economic scenario, political scenario of the country, and the various stakeholders who are connected with the organization, like banks, creditors, customers. They all form the external environment of the organization, while the internal environment comprise of employees in the organization. So human resource planning is very effective way of understanding the availability of human resources in the organization, and also the surplus or shortage of workers in the organization. As you can see in this, we need to compare the requirements of a workforce in an organization and already available workforce in the organization. So this way we can forecast the human resource requirements for our organization. So if the demand is equal to supply, if we have, say, 100 employees working in an organization, and there is the supply is also of 100 employees in the organization. In that case, our demand is equal to supply. So we don't need to take any action. We don't need to advertise for vacant positions. In case there is surplus of workers, if there is a need of 100 employees and we have 110 employees with us, in that case, we will freeze hiring and we'll not hire for positions. We'll try to manage the vacant positions on any levels through the existing employees, through transfers, through promotions. And also we can give, we can go for policies of VRS, voluntary retirement scheme. We can go for layoffs and downsizing, depending on the strategies or the future goals of the organization. These decisions can be taken. What if there is shortage of workers, and if, suppose we require 100 workers in the organization and we have 90 workers, so we need to understand how many are short, at what positions, at what levels, and we can find out the vacancies at different levels and go ahead with recruitment and finally post selection. So this is the process of human resource planning. Now, let us understand forecasting the demand for human resources. We need to understand how we are going to find out what is the demand of human resources or what is the demand of employees in the organization. So what affects the demand for human resources in an organization? As I mentioned earlier, there can be, strategic goals of the organization, which can trigger the demand of the human resources, technological environment, political environment, the demand for the product that can trigger the requirement of employees in an organization. So there are various factors that affect the demand for HR. First is external challenges because of economical development. For example, if there is a recession going on in the economy, then hiring will be frozen and there will be no demand for human resources. If there is any political or social turmoil in the country, then also the demand would be less. And in case there are requirements for technological advancements in the organization, in that case, you need to hire people with new technological skills. And also to meet the competition, we need to hire more people in case we need to beat the competition. So also the demand of human resources or employee depends on the strategic decisions made by the organizational management or board of directors. It can be, to downsize the business, or it can be to expand the business depending on the strategic objectives. We can take decisions whether to recruit more employees or we need to lay off more employees in the organization. So also a demand of HR depends on number of employees who are being retired in the organization or being terminated or layoffs, or there are resignations, or there are leave of absence, deaths. There are so many factors which will decide that so many workers are not going to be present with us in future, and we need to take action by hiring more people to fill in the vacant positions. So there are various forecasting techniques for forecasting the demand of workers in an organization. So we'll be doing these techniques one by one. The first and foremost technique of demand forecasting for employees is judgmental analysis. This is also called expert forecast. So these are based on the judgment of those who have good knowledge and expertise in the human resource department and the human resource needs of the organization. So these experts or these managers help in deciding whether we have to go ahead with recruitment or we have to say no to recruitment of new employees or workforce. So the judgmental analysis can also be divided into three parts. First is bottom-up forecasting, second is top-down forecasting, and third is Delphi technique. Now, what is bottom-up forecasting? Bottom-up forecasting is to seek opinion and guidance from the unit, branch, or division to prepare the estimate. So what we are doing is we are trying to collect data regarding the vacancies from different various units or various departments. The sum of all the estimates prepared at various levels and different divisions is the demand forecast for the organization. For example, we can seek the managers from different departments in an organization, like HR manager, marketing manager, finance manager, IT manager from different departments, and ask what are their needs or future needs for employees in their departments. And then we can just add them up to come up with the needs of the entire organization. So this is one approach. This is called bottom-up forecasting because we are approaching the lower levels in order to come up with the needs of the workforce in an organization. Another approach is top-down forecasting. In this exercise is done through top-level management or the higher-level managers. They meet, they discuss, they understand the strategies, and they make the future goals for the organization. They understand the economy and the business plan of expansion, downsizing. It could be anything. It could be merger and acquisition also. And they taking into consideration the economy and other factors, they decide whether we need to go ahead with hiring of personnel or we will be able to cope with the existing workforce. So they are going to decide. They are the decision makers. So in top-down forecasting, we take into consideration the opinion or judgment of the higher level echelons of the organization. Next is the Delphi technique. In this technique, it is the forecasting aid based in the consensus of a panel of experts who do not meet face-to-face but exchange notes through anonymous questionnaires. So what we do here is that we make a questionnaire regarding the need of the workforce, and which all departments have need of the workforce, and which all departments are expanding, or maybe downsizing, or maybe there are technological advancements happening. And we jot down these questions and send these questions through a mail or through email or through Google form to certain experts who do not meet with each other. They give their own opinions whether we should go ahead with hiring more personnel or not. And once the consensus is reached by all the experts, then the organization may take decisions of hiring the personnel in an organization. Another technique is a trend analysis. So trend analysis can be done by extrapolation from the past data. So we can collect data from the past. We can see what is the trend in the past 1 year. For example, if we see that the trend of attrition is 10% in the last 5 years, then we can easily estimate that in the future, 10% people are going to leave the organization, and that will be the demand for personnel or manpower in the organization. So we can easily find out the historical data, and based on this historical data, we can take decisions for future for human resource planning. Next is mathematical model. There are several models available, and we can use Python, or we can use SPSS in order to go ahead with regression model, optimization model, correlation model, with the help of computers and statistical tools of data interpretation to forecast the needs of the human resources in an organization. Next, we move ahead to computer models. They are similar to mathematical models, and they try to focus on the need of the human resources during peak hours or during peak season. For example, in a retailing unit, based on estimated store traffic and sales forecasts, staffing requirements can be predicted with the help of computer in an objective. How can we do it? For example, we know that in the past, the sales were really high in November and December at the time of Diwali and Christmas. So similarly, we can, hire people at that time to meet the targets and meet the competition and meet the sales target of the organization during November and December. So we can use computer models for predicting and forecasting the requirement of human resources in the organization. Next is workforce analysis. Now, what is workforce analysis? We need to analyze our workforce, that is the existing workforce. This is very important because this forms the basis for most of the organizations. You see, all relevant factors in planning manpower flows in a firm, such as transfers, how many people have to be transferred, how many people are being promoted this year, how many people have joined this year, how many retirements are taking place, what is the attrition rate, what is the turnover rate, resignations, dismissal, layoffs, all is taken into consideration to find out the real estimate of the workforce so that we can forecast the demand of the workforce for future. So here is an example of workforce analysis. Based on the planned output, a firm tries to calculate the number of persons required for various jobs. So this is workload analysis. So in workload analysis, we need to find out like how much work is given to a certain employee in the organization. And similarly, we can find out whether we need to improve or increase the productivity. In case we are going ahead with increasing the productivity, we need to hire more people by dividing the workload with number of people. And in case there is no requirement, then in that case, we will just stick to the existing workforce. So this is an example where you can see that the planned output or the production of the products in an organization is 10,000 pieces or 10,000 units, you can say. And standard hours per piece takes 3 hours. So planned hours would be 30,000 hours are required in order to complete the workload of 10,000 pieces. And if one person does 1,000 hours on annual basis, then 30 people are required to do or produce 10,000 pieces in 1 year, right? So in order to, because one piece takes 30 hours to complete, right? So the span, if the span of control in the unit is 10 per officer, then 3 officers are required to complete the job. So I'll repeat once again. So if the planned output is 10,000 pieces and per piece it takes 3 hours to complete, and the planned hours required would be 30,000. And if one person takes 1,000 hours in an year to complete the work, then we require 30 people. And for span of control, we require at least one person per 10 people. So we need 3 managers and 30 labor workforce for this kind of work. So this is called workload analysis. This is mostly used for factories and production houses and for manufacturing industry. Now, after demand forecasting, when we need to find out the demand of workers or employees in an organization, we move ahead with supply forecasting, and we need to find out what is the supply, how many workers are available with us in the organization, and this is called supply forecasting. And there are several techniques of analyzing supply forecasting in an organization. So first we need to find out the internal labor supply, and then we find out the external labor supply. So in internal labor supply, we need to find out internally what are our resources, what is our inventory of manpower available to us. So our manpower inventory in terms of size and quality of employees available to us. For example, there's always a database maintained by the organizations, or in fact, these days we have ERPs available, or MIS, Management Information System available, which stores the data, large data of employees, and we can easily pull the records to check what is the age of the employees, gender, their education level, and how much training they have undertaken, what are their experiences, what is their job performance, how many promotions they have got, and where they are located, their personal information as well. And it is usually prepared by the HR departments, and there are several techniques are used while ascertaining the internal supply of labor. And a supply of employees to fill projected vacancies can come from within the firm or from new hires. So we need to decide whether we can, fill in the vacancies through the existing inventory of manpower, or we need to hire new people from outside. So this is an estimated internal labor supply for a firm. So as you can see that on the left-hand side, on my left-hand side, the sources of inflows, how many people are coming to our firm, how many employees are coming to our firms through transfers. So how many vacancies are being filled through transfers? How many vacancies are being filled through promotions, through new recruits or new hires, or through recalls? What are recalls? Recalls is if someone has left the organization, or we have during the downsizing time, we ask them to lay off, and those people can be recalled again in case there are vacancies that arise. How many employees are leaving the organization is on the right-hand side. So this is the projected outflow of employees, that is through promotions. Some vacancies are created because some people have been promoted at higher levels of management. Some people leave the organization due to personal reasons. There can be terminations, there can be retirements, deaths, and then layoffs due to lack of projects. So many people have left the organization and so many people have come into the organization. This will help us come up with firm's internal supply for this time next year. So we can come up with human resource planning for the next year, and the internal supply of labor can be estimated very easily. We can calculate it through by, if you can see on the down of my slide, current staffing level. We can just check the current staffing level through the sources of inflows. We'll deduct projected outflows from the projected outflows of the firm and add any projected inflows in case there are any. And we will come to firm's internal supply of labor. And this will be our human resource planning for the next year. So as for the demand forecasting techniques, there are also several techniques to forecast supply side of the employees. How we can find out that so many employees are available to us internally. So that is called the supply forecasting technique. So first technique is called staffing table. What is staffing table? Staffing table shows us the number of employees in each job, how they are utilized, and the future employment needs for each type of job. So we have staffing table made by the HR department. And for each job, we can see that how many number of employees are available and whether they are overutilized or underutilized in the job. Depending on the staffing table, we can actually estimate the requirement of employees for these jobs. What is Markov analysis? Markov analysis, like trend analysis that we did in demand forecasting technique. Markov analysis is also called historical analysis of data. So basically, this technique uses historical rates of promotions, transfers, turnover to estimate the future availability of workers. So we know that so many people are being transferred or being promoted. So certain vacancies will be filled up because of promotions, because of transfers, and because of turnover. Certain vacancies will be created. So you can estimate the availability of workforce for future. Then comes skills inventory. Skills inventory is created by HR department to seek the employees' skills availability to perform job in the organization. So a summary of all the skills and abilities and knowledge of non-managerial employees can be used to forecast the supply side. So here is an example of skills inventory. As you can see, this is the skill inventory for Mr. Sen. So this skill inventory talks about Mr. Sen, and the keywords are what he does, what are the job roles or responsibilities he plays in the organization, and what is his work experience, his education level, his qualifications or certifications, memberships, his computer literacy, languages, position preference, location choices, and hobbies. All these are put for each and every employee of the organization, which forms the skill inventory. And as and when there is requirement or vacancies created, Mr. Sen can be either transferred or promoted to fill those positions because he has education and he has also acquired certain special qualifications and computer literacy in accounting department. Another example of supply forecasting technique is replacement chart. What is a replacement chart? So a replacement chart is a visual representation of who will replace whom in the event of a job opening. This is just like succession planning as we discussed earlier. So this is an example of replacement chart. As you can see that this is like an organizational chart where there are different divisions, and Mr. V.K. Garg is the general manager and he has a PA, Mr. Matthews, followed by general manager V.K. Garg is assistant general manager. There are two assistant general managers, Mr. Arora and Mr. Nehru. And under assistant general manager, there are northern region manager. In the last, you can see central region manager, southern region manager, and eastern region manager. And also there are different divisions or different departments like HR manager, accounting manager, planning manager, and technical advisor. So this is the organizational structure or organizational chart for an organization. And you can see the names are written who all are representing in this organizational chart. And also you can see that some alphanumerical positioning is also given to these employees. For example, Mr. V.K. Garg has been given A2. A is that he is promotable now. So Mr. Garg, if he gets promoted, then his seat will go vacant. And he is also having above average performance because he is being given a rating of 2 for his performance. So that means sooner or later, Mr. Garg will leave this position of general manager and maybe he'll become the vice president of the company. So who is going to replace Mr. Garg? We need to do some succession planning for Mr. Garg. So according to you, just ponder your thoughts and find out who is going to replace Mr. Garg. Is it Mr. Arora who can replace, or is it Mr. Nehru? Mr. Arora, of course. Why? Because his performance scores are A2. A is because he is ready to be promoted, and 2 is above average performance. If Mr. Arora leaves and joins the position of Mr. Garg, who is going to replace Mr. Arora? Now we can see that there are in the divisions section, there is Mr. A.N. Gupta and Mr. C.P. Thakur, whose performance rating is A1 for both of them. So either one of them can replace Mr. Arora to join as assistant general manager. So this was about the replacement chart. Now we did the internal supply of labor for the organization by finding out who is going to be transferred or promoted or succession planning through Markov analysis and through trend analysis or through judgmental decisions. Let us now find out what are the external labor supply. External hires needs to be contacted when suitable internal replacements are not available. So if we are not able to fill up the positions which are vacant internally, in that case, we need to find out prospective candidates from outside the organization. So a growing number of firms are now using computerized human resource information system to track the qualifications of hundreds of thousands of employees. HRIS can provide managers with a listing of candidates with required qualifications after scanning the database. So first of all, we need to understand manpower gap analysis. This is used to reconcile the forecast of labor demand and supply. This process identifies potential skill shortages or surpluses of employees. So what we need to understand here is that we need to understand the gap between the demand and supply. We need to understand what is the demand of workforce or employees, and we need to understand what is the supply of workforce. And of course, by deducting demand from supply, we can come up to the estimate of the workforce which are required by the organization in future. So as you can see, 3 years estimate is taken for one organization, where we will write down the demand for workers at the beginning of the year, changes to requirement forecast during the year in case there are any changes, then total number of requirements for year 1 and year 2, then number of availability of resources already available through internal sources like through transfers or promotions, which will form the supply side. Then we will also deduct retirements or wastages or promotions and other people who quit the organization. We'll deduct them from this number. So we will have the total available at the end of the year, 4 plus 5 plus 6. And then there can be deficit or there can be surplus of workforce. If there is deficit of workforce, we'll go for recruitment and selection. If there is surplus of workforce, we'll freeze the hiring. So this is all about human resource planning, demand and supply forecasting technique. Let us now understand a few challenges that human resource planning may face. Human resource planning forms an integral part of any organization, and most of the organizations have kept human resource planning very intact in their organization. But we should understand that there can be some challenges with HR planning. For example, accuracy, because we might project manpower needs over a period of time, but this can be very risky. And there can be maybe some economical turmoil, which can lead to changes in the projected manpower requirements in the organization. Also, when we prepare, it demands elaborate preparation and careful monitoring of internal supply of labor as well as the external supply of labor. And it requires a lot of preparation and time by the HR managers and the HR department to come up with the exact estimate of workforce requirements. Also, if there is no support from the higher level of management, we cannot implement HR planning effectively. So the support from higher level of management is required and is a must. Then sometimes there's also resistance from the employees and trade unions when HR planning exercises are underway. because they resist thinking that they might be, there might be some downsizing, or their jobs are insecure, and the trade union leaders or trade union members may feel insecure with the HR planning practices in the organization. Then it is majorly a number game. It is more quantitative, and it neglects the qualitative part of recruitment and selection. How can we create an effective human resource planning process in the organization? We need to first identify the various objectives of human resource planning. First of all, as I said, we need to understand the strategic goals of the organization. What are the strategic goals of the organization? And based on those goals, we need to make the objectives of human resource planning, which should be clearly written down, jotted down, and communicated to the top level management. And support from the top level management should be sought in terms of, because HR planning is a process which can be costly also, and because various techniques of demand forecasting and supply forecasting have to be applied, so it can cost to the management. So the top management support is required in terms of payment, in terms of bearing the cost of human resource planning. And then it is time consuming also, because all the jobs have to be assessed in order to come up with the right projected inflows and outflows of human resources in the organization. Then we need to update the skill inventory time to time. So this also can take a lot of time. And in order to create a good human resource planning, we need to have a very robust HRIS system in place by the organization, and it should be coordinated well in advance at all the levels of management, and not just for middle level or lower level, but also for higher level management. It should be implemented. So this was all for human resource planning. So we discussed what is human resource planning, the definition of human resource planning, and we discussed the importance and objectives of human resource planning, the supply of human resource planning, and demand of human resource planning. We also discussed how we can have effective HR planning and the challenges faced by HR planning in an organization. I hope you enjoyed my video on human resource planning. I'll come up with more videos on human resource training and development, on compensation management, performance management, and other functions of human resource management. So tune in with me. Thank you so much for listening to me.